It's
So,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
so I mean, I guess
Yeah.
like start. What was your first impression? Because I'll tell you, like my first impression was definitely like I see that they designed this game to be playable on mobile because I feel like I'm playing a mobile game that's like imported onto like a PC.
I kind of agree.
I'm
Just
not sure if I'd
because
say
It's on
it's
consoles. It's
designed
on
to be.
PlayStation right now, so I think it's
Yeah, I mean it's on Switch
I
and PlayStation, and I don't know if it's on Xbox, but it's on
Yeah,
Switch.
I don't say this to mean like the game quality is bad. I just mean the way
oh yeah,
it's designed. It's like seems to be a
I
much more
feel you.
simple design, almost like a mobile game that's like emulated on PC right now.
I
Sure,
mean, I
yeah.
mean, I'm not. Sh
okay.
I don't know. I think it's just more simplistic.
Hmm.
Like the controls are definitely built to be compatible with mobile,
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
but well, actually, no. Now that you mention it, like just the way the quest stuff is laid out on the home screen is pretty fucking mobile game.
It is definitely more mobile game. Like even just the missions and things. Like this is all
Yeah,
definitely stuff you would
right.
see from like a mobile game
Like if
for
it
sure.
was a real PC built game from like just the home screen
Yeah.
wouldn't have four tiny little tabs and then a big ass art. You basically
Hmm.
have like four giant sections and then a bunch of special effects every time you change the
Yeah.
category.
I
Yeah.
do like though
Hmm.
that it's cleaner than the Duel Links stuff though.
I've
Oh,
never
I
actually
mean,
played Duel Links, so I don't know about that.
In
About
terms of
that.
like
so
menu operating, that is. So
yeah. I mean,
I
I've played Duel Links for basically since release. In terms of comparing it to this game, I would say that this for sure feels so much more polished.
Really? So what was really unpolished about Duel Links? Because I never got
So
into it either.
Duel Links for me just felt like super mobile gamey,
Hmm.
in my opinion. Like more so than this even. Just because it was supposed to be sort of just quick, dirty, is for the sort of people who are literally just sort of starting to play that game. And I would almost recommend Duel Links for that, just because I think it does a better job of sort of teaching you sort of old school Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I fell in love with the TCG actually. So I started with Duel Links, got the basics down, and then as they gradually added more and more mechanics in, I got even more and more invested in it. And I was
Right.
like, oh
Oh,
shit,
and
this is
then
like really fun. I want to try like making TCG decks. And then that I did that. My first TCG deck was, I think, just plain old Code Talkers, and I'm like, holy shit, this is lot more complicated, a lot deeper than I thought it was, and I liked it even more. So when I heard that they were doing Master Duel, I was like, shit, this is really cool because this means I can like go out and try out some of these friggin' expensive cards that like normally I wouldn't be able to use. And all these other decks that I feel like would be normally a hassle to get, just because I don't feel like there are a whole lot of places that normally sell Yu-Gi-Oh cards and boosters and packs and all
Yeah.
of that stuff. Where at least where I am right now, because I feel like West Coast there'd be a lot more stuff, but here in the Midwest it's
That's
just kind
definitely how
of
I feel
oh
too.
yeah, in the
There's like fuck
yeah,
Midwest.
all in the Midwest near us. I mean,
dude,
we complained about that when we were
exactly
in
right.
Chicago, so there's like nothing.
Oh yeah,
But
fuck
I will
all
say,
out
so
here.
one of the things you mentioned that was interesting is like the idea of like the packs. It's cheaper than like buying cards in real life, and I have to say, like, it is interesting to me that the cards are actually priced in a way that makes more sense than in real life. Because in real
Hmm.
life, the price of cards is based on supply and demand. Because you can get like
Yep.
nostalgia cards,
Yep.
like fucking Ancient Gear Fusion, that were used to be like 30 to 50 bucks,
Hmm.
when it was released, because it was just like really rare in that pack, and it was like, okay, obviously no one's gonna buy this because one, it's not like a great card, but also because
Yep.
it's like, yeah, it's just not a great card for the cost. But unfortunately, that's just how supply and demand is. In this game,
Yeah.
it felt like every time I look up a good card, I'm kind of cursing myself. I'm like, damn it, this card's like a UR or an SR because
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
you're
good.
expecting it
Yep.
to be
Right,
giga high. It's like,
right. But then
nah,
it's
this
like,
shit's a fucking R.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But then like I'll look up a
Yeah.
different card that like is like an older card. I'm like, all right, what's Ancient Gear Fusion? And it'll be like R, and I'll be like, oh, easy, you can craft it. Like, so that is kind of interesting. I think in a way they made the cost actually make much more sense than in the physical
Yeah.
TCG.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's just sort of like like they do reprints for a lot of cards. Like,
Oh
for
yeah.
example, like my Madolche deck in real life, the ultra rare pudding set is like $300,
Hmm.
but the ultra
Jesus.
rare reprint of it is 20 cents. So it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
And
Sure.
I think for the
it's not
TCG
like
you just have to
Konami
waste
is
like way
making any
longer.
money off of secondhand resales.
Yeah.
Because Konami's already sold the pack 20 years ago. They're not going to see a single cent.
Hmm.
So they
Hmm.
don't have any incentive to adapt that model in the digital world.
Yeah.
So It makes sense that they did it the way they did, where all of the like staples of a deck and like all of the rare hand traps and stuff are what you actually need to pay a lot for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like all the rare stuff that gets printed or the normal cards that look cool, they they don't cost jack shit because nobody actually wants them to play with them. People just want them for collection art because they look cool.
Yeah.
Look,
I mean,
I mean,
definitely.
it's nice.
Mm.
Oh, I do wish my real life deck didn't cost so much fucking money.
What
Well,
deck do you have?
Madolche.
Oh, okay.
I
for,
mean,
Also,
well, I say that, but at the same time, the whole fucking deck was like $30, so it wasn't exactly pricey from
Okay.
yeah, like an actual
Really?
player standard. But
I was
yeah.
that's
gonna say
almost $30 more than I will ever play a game of real life Yu-Gi-Oh in my life.
fair.
So that's
Yeah, I mean, the
30 bucks
difficulty
more
for
than I
me
will.
is it's hard to justify because I'm not going to be able to play very much in the Midwest. You know, like that's just a
Yeah.
Yeah,
rough
right.
situation for playing. But like, just like you said, I think for the TCG, once you just wait long enough, the card prices will depreciate because of the reprints. Like for Cyber Dragon stuff, like Nashter and Cyberload Fusion, those went down just because of
Oh
the new
yeah.
structure deck that came out. So like now you could play that if you wanted to. So
Mm.
yeah, so that it was just interesting seeing the prices. Obviously, like we talked about how the gems already were like the new what is it, honeymoon period for gems as every mobile game. But I think we're all like experienced
Yeah.
enough that we're with mobile games that we're like, okay, this is kind of like a situation that isn't gonna last, and
Yeah,
we gotta
absolutely.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
because I mean I told my friends like, hey guys, these gems are like an influx, and like be careful, like figure out what deck you want to play before like spending all these because you're not getting this much again like ever.
Yeah, a couple of my friends have actually like expressed interest in learning Yu-Gi-Oh from scratch with this game because I mean right now apparently it's got like 300,000 players on Steam, which is
Oh yeah.
insane
It
for
blew
something like
up.
this.
It just
So like
blew
they're
up.
like, "Hey, how should I use my gems?" And I'm like, "Don't use them,
Don't
period. Like
yeah, play the solo
talk to
content, but don't
me,
use your gems.
talk to me and I will create you a deck and you will use your gems on that deck how I tell you to. But if you don't and you just do whatever the fuck you want, you or your account is going to be bricked. This has got to be hard
Yeah.
bricked.
Yeah, you're gonna
You're
have
not
to make
recovering
like a
from it.
new account in the future if you do that. To be honest.
Yeah.
And you can't, right? Like,
Agree.
like Konami actually doesn't let you delete your account. If you ask them to delete their account, they'll ban you from the game, and you're not allowed to create a new one. So
Yep.
like, there's just no re-rolling in this game
Wait, you can't.
unless you're on
So wait,
console.
you can't just make a new like Steam ID?
Oh yeah, I mean you
I
can
mean,
make a new account
He
by
just
sure.
means
like
without hassle.
making a new
Is what
account.
I
Okay.
assumed. Is he meant
Yeah,
like
like
without a
but you
hassle,
can't like
probably.
re-roll on the same Steam
Mhm.
account.
Yeah, that I mean, and that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, definitely like so. The thing is, like, you bring up the new players thing. That was like one of my concerns for the future was that there is going to be a large influx of players because people are like, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh Online, finally, I can play like I can have a way to play the game, but they're going to
I
be
could play
thrown
the Seven
right.
Skull like
But yeah, but
by
they're going to be
Shonen Jump
thrown into
multiple
fucking
times.
like solo mode against all these great decks, and it's like if they don't like follow Yu-Gi-Oh at all, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? I
Yeah.
really think that on release, Konami should have probably prepped like a casual mode or at least like something that was like more
Yeah.
familiar because I don't
I
want
don't know
like
why
this
they
game
didn't
within
do
one
that.
week to just die because a bunch of like
Yeah,
casual players would be like, "Well, what the fuck is this game?" and then they
That
quit and never look back.
that's
Well, what kind of sucks too, though, is like you need time for like all these meta users to get up to platinum, like, whatever,
yeah.
to like make the rank disparity. But like that's why I
I
feel
feel
like
like
what
it's
sucks the
happening.
most for people is
I
Mm.
mean,
like getting stuck
someone
against people that know the TCG.
yeah,
Mm.
someone floated the theory that the game might actually have released in an unfinished state because I mean, if you look at a lot of the mates, like the soccer ball and the roller skates in the car, they're just
Mm.
stock 3D assets. They have nothing to do with Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
feel
Like,
very unfinished because the store at
yeah,
least is
it's
also very
like they
unfinished.
just put them in for debugging purposes and they were forced to release the game with that still
Sure.
in it. And
Okay.
Well, like what was weird though is it came out of the blue. Like let's talk
Right.
about
yeah,
that for a
right, like it
second.
just
Like
shows
It
up
was
on Steam
weird.
and you
Yeah.
can
In the middle of
immediately
the night,
download it.
and
And
you
then the
could yeah
servers open the next day
yeah.
and you're like, what the fuck happened? There was no announcement, no release, no
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, it
So
almost feels like we're
Very
I
playing a
don't know
bizarre
what's
beta,
going
to
release.
be
on there.
honest. Like, or an early access, to be honest. Like, it feels like, oh,
Yeah.
you early access, and now we're playing like a, something we can do, like a week
Like
before
it
the
makes
official
sense if
release.
this was a beta and like the season end at the end of the month is going to be like the actual
Release.
release of the
Yeah.
game, but I mean, it's not
Yeah.
marketed as a beta or early access or anything. It's just listed as a real release, so who the fuck knows?
Yeah,
Oh, you're skipping all the lore bits. Those are the best
I skipped the
part.
lore bits too.
They're
I
so
know.
cool.
I'm just trying. I'm gonna go back later.
So
But
do
right
you
now,
guys
I'm just
think
trying to
they're
get
gonna
some of it.
add more solo mode stuff? Because I've played through all the solo
They
mode now.
they
Not like
better.
every like locked
I hope
gate,
they do. Yeah.
but like for example, most of them are pretty straightforward. But then you get to the final one, which is the World Challenge,
Oh yeah,
and that one is
the
like
behind the
super
gate
deep.
ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I really like
Don't worry,
solo
Lance,
mode,
I
and
do
I
like the
hope they
lore.
continue adding more of this.
Dude, the
So
fucking the Gem Knight Loner deck one destroyed me like 3 times in a row, and I was like, "What the
Same.
fuck is going on here?" And then I looked at the deck list, and the opponent has a full-on meta Gem Knight deck, and you have some shitty ass hybrid where half
Like
the cards
Gem
in your
Knight
deck are
Constellar.
Constellar, and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, why?
It was fucking
And
just
it's funny because the reason I ended up winning is because I've had experience with a Constellar deck back when they were meta several years ago.
Yeah.
So I just ended up playing Constellar and making Pleiades and then running Gem Knight Seraphonite as the extra normal summon engine, which is how Constellar used to be played. And
Mhm.
I won with the Constellar deck basically.
I do like though that they're like trying to say, hey, look, this is the engine, but then like look what else you could dribble in
I
to the deck.
Yeah.
so
Even though
you
it might not be
say
good, but it's,
so you say that's how the end. This is they're teaching you the engine, right?
yeah.
they teach you one
So
mechanic though is the problem. Like they teach you
I
like one mechanic,
yeah
you
I don't
attack to
know.
end the game, and then it's like, all right, now play our deck, and it's like, well,
Yeah, I
I
mean
know
it's
one
really
thing.
like the way you
I
learn the deck
forgot.
is by getting beaten up by the NPC.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I
Yeah, that's
mean,
a form of learning. I kind of
that's
like that.
good,
I like
but
that
it
whole.
also takes a specific kind of person
Hmm.
to recognize that and
Yeah.
learn from it. Like a lot of people are just going to be like, "Well, what the fuck? He can do this and I can't. This is bullshit. The NPC's cheating. I
Gotcha.
quit the game." And I mean, you can also argue that those people would never really be into Yu-Gi-Oh in the first place.
Also true.
But
Yeah.
and I think there is a small subset of it where if you were to sort of drip feed them over time and with an actual good tutorial, they would find something that really grabs their interest and stay in the game.
I will say,
So I don't
I
know.
do think it would be easier to teach someone on this game than like if we just actually recently like one of the players we did play with for our progression thing was a new player, and even then like teaching him all the concepts from the ground up even in like an older 2004 format was like still
Oh
somewhat
yeah.
difficult because conceptually it was different than the other card games he played. So it's like kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird
I mean,
rules.
you play. I actually I don't play Magic Gathering, so I have no idea how that compares. But like you play like Shadowverse or Hearthstone or Pokemon, there's not
Yeah.
really that like the concept of the enemy, like the opponent being able to just fuck you over at any point in time, isn't really a thing in those games. Like you have your
Mhm.
combos, like there might be some interrupts or some like immunities or things the enemy can do to block it, but for the most part, you get to play what you want, and then
Yeah.
the opponent gets to play a response to that.
I
And
I would,
and it's not like
I
you
would
just
say a
do what you
counter
want.
argument though is luckily we have MTG Arena and Legends of Runeterra,
Yeah,
which
and I
are
mean,
nice
MTG I'm
counterbalance.
sure has a lot of just fuck you.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna
that
say
tournament is
if
like
you
yeah.
compare this game to Legends of Runeterra, well, so two comparisons, I guess, for the ones I know. I don't know too much of Legends of Runeterra, but the thing is, like, I wish I'd gotten into it. I remember I registered for the beta, but I never got like the thing for it. And then a year later, it's out, and I played it once. I was like, yeah, this is a game that's much more back and forth, much like how Yu-Gi-Oh is, at least to the degree that Hearthstone isn't, right?
Yeah,
And it's like so it's a slower game, and I was like, I don't want to like have to relearn another game with like all the cards and blah blah blah. So I didn't end up
Yeah.
playing it. But the animations and the quality of that game just looked very high, and I think if this game can get there, that would be very good. But it's
Yeah.
also difficult, right? Because Riot actually does a good job with like art and animation side. The other comparison I was going to draw to is Hearthstone, who like Hearthstone is actually such an amazing game from a perspective of getting people into it because it's so simple. It's the numbers are low. It's straightforward. You can do anything anytime, and you're playing solitaire essentially because you don't have to wait for your opponent to react. So it's a
yeah.
very straightforward game, and it's so intuitive. And Blizzard fucked it up. They fucked it up so hard, and people don't want to play the game anymore. So
Dude, Blizzard fucked it up is like
They really
everything
messed
in the
things
past
up.
3 years,
yeah,
right?
I don't play that game. I used to play that game so much. I remember even like I love playing even like at the competitive side. Like I'd actually play in tournaments. Like that game
I did
was
too.
so
Yeah.
that game was so fun, and the game just got it got more and more like gross. So what I'm saying is we saw a game that was like very popular and easy to play get fucked up. I'm just hoping Konami is smart and does do their stuff that helps new players quickly. But I guess so.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about like the future because like I guess the current state of the game.
Sure.
I think definitely if you're like a person who's played Yu-Gi-Oh before, you'd probably be like, this is awesome. I can play Yu-Gi-Oh online now. Like this is great. That
Yeah.
it's technically like cheaper to build a deck than in real life. Technically, right, with the gems you have. And so it's probably an awesome experience if like you're an experienced player. But I think if you're like a new player, you're like it's definitely very questionable.
You're fucking lost.
So like in terms of the future though, like what kind of things do you guys want to see?
Well, so like, as far as new players go, like me and a couple friends have actually basically what we've done is we've sort of like created the Discord support group for our other friends who want to play that are just completely new. Cause well, like after going through it, we realized if you're playing the solo modes with the intent to learn how the game works, it's actually really good as long as you have someone you can ask to who can explain the mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we've done is we've created like a little Discord support group where we invite a new player. They play solo mode to see how the game works, and then every time they run into something they don't understand or mechanic, they just ask the group and we explain it. And like so far, one guy's like 2 days in. I mean, the game's really only 3 days old, but he's actually really hooked into the game so far, and
Nice.
he's learned the game like crazy fast because the solo mode's actually kind of really good because it starts you off with like a fucking ritual deck, right? Like, what the fuck is that? Nobody uses it. Well, okay, dry funds, but that doesn't count. But like, it does the ritual, and then it shows you like a synchro, and then it shows you like an XYZ. So it actually sort of puts you through these old decks that are all shit and not in the meta anymore. But it actually it shows you how the mechanics work, right? So once you get into that, it's surprisingly good. It
Oh.
makes me feel like the solo mode is like half thought, like fully thought out, but half implemented.
Right, like
Like,
they like knew what they were supposed to do, but it's not
yeah,
enough.
yeah, they created the foundation for it, and then just they haven't added like an extra layer of tutorials or missions on top of it that would walk you through it and really get you into it. Like again, it just sort of feels like it goes back to that unfinished state for me.
Mm.
If they had like an extra half year to polish this up and add a lot of the missing stuff, I think it'd be amazing. But yeah,
So,
in its current state,
wh-
it definitely requires support from like other people playing the game to really sort of get into it.
what one thing that I found interesting that you said was the fact that you guys have been saying that it feels sort of unfinished. And now that you guys are bringing it up, I kind of agree a little bit more, just because I feel so this is the comparison I'm making, and I'm not sure if it's a great comparison. So when it's weird because in some ways it feels more finished than Duel Links, which is the comparison I'm making. But in other
Mhm.
cases, like the stuff you're bringing up now with like solo mode, tutorial, even ranked, it feels like it's missing something,
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
right?
core
I
gameplay is
mean,
done, but the polish just is not there
yeah,
yet.
I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense because I don't think Duel Links was really meant to be anything more than just like a
Just like,
quick play mobile cash grab from the
yeah.
start, right? Like it's just
Hmm.
like it got better with time as it
Yeah.
sort of built up, but it was really just designed so for a
Yeah.
Honestly,
different sort of
they
audience.
need to go out. Like I haven't seen like many ads for Master Duel yet, but I hope they go with the same effort that they used with Duel Links. Because I remember at some point I was getting a fucking Duel Links ad like
Oh,
every video. That's like
dude, Duel Links
with
was
that with
so
your
much
board clear,
marketing.
with nothing left
And
on
a
the
lot of
board, I
marketing.
summon Dark Magician and Direct Attack. GG. Like I got that ad like every fucking video I watched. You guys know what I'm
God, I
talking about.
remember that.
Yeah. And I remember like people were like, dude, this doesn't even make sense. He can't just summon Dark Magician. Like this is false advertisement.
Well, maybe he has Dark Magician Circle. You don't know.
Oh man. Oh, that's good
Uh,
shit.
That's like
Yeah.
OG
Yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
so
It's
I
whatever
hope
the fuck you
Konami
want.
does like definitely go out of their way to like put in that kind of ad space for this
Yeah,
game.
and I mean, really, you can feel the effort they put into the game. I'm wondering if they were like too ambitious on what they wanted it to be. Like it's definitely meant to be like the definitive Yu-Gi-Oh experience, right?
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah.
they just had like a huge game plan and it just ran into like budget or timing issues and didn't quite get there. Like, and I don't
Mm.
know.
I mean,
I guess we'll never really
it's
know because
the
we're not
thing
in
is,
control.
at least the game is like it's not fucked for people who actually like Yu-Gi-Oh. So the core audience is not going to dislike this game, right? It's the thing is like it's if you were to compare this to like say like a car, right? The car works. You can 100% drive the car, but it's just missing the things that make it comfortable for like a person who's going to buy it, like a new person, right? A new person
Yeah.
comes in and wants to buy the car and they're going to look and they're not going to know what's going on and it looks ugly, you know, because basically like I don't think the shop is finished yet, and I especially don't think like the modes are finished, and it's just not very polished for new people. And so my concern is for growth, you know, because
Yeah.
this definitely fixes the issue of like not for especially like me in the Midwest and some of you guys that like oh I can't go out and like just play Yu-Gi-Oh with people because it's hard to find people. I have to drive, you know, I'd have to drive very long.
Literally
It's
an
like,
hour.
and also you know so it's just like you know cost to like amount I can play benefit. It's just not really good, right? This definitely fixes that
Yeah.
issue for me, but you know, for like I hope like Yu-Gi-Oh gets bigger though. You know, I think it'd be cool if it got bigger because then you'd
Oh,
have more
yeah.
people do want to get custom modes and other stuff like that, and that'd be awesome. So I
I
do
like how
hope
Teddy's
there's
just
growth.
been hard bullying this NPC with 800 life points left.
That's
like,
what I
the
do in
past
solo
10
mode too.
minutes.
I've also been fucking up my combos as well. This is
It's good
nowhere
practice, right?
near.
I mean, that's how I
It's
learned my.
great practice.
That's actually how I learned my despot combos. I was a
Yeah,
solo
no,
mode.
I'm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Any other
But no,
things in the
yeah.
future that you guys think this game could use?
See, it's like, I mean,
I
I've had experience with a lot of MMOs, like free to
we
play MMOs,
Yeah.
where they have that initial huge player spike because everyone's into it. It's the new
Oh yeah.
hotness. And
New
then they
World.
don't capitalize on it. And in 2 weeks,
Or they
90% of the
choke.
player
You
base
talking
is
about New
left.
World?
Yeah, New World. Oh, New World is a
Maybe.
great example because they
Yeah,
just
they just
fucked
absolutely shit the bed.
everything.
Holy
Yeah.
shit. I've never seen someone shit the bed before, and I've seen a lot of MMOs shit the bed.
See, I'm hoping this is like instead of like New World, that this is like Lost Ark, where we know that like that game actually increased player base in Korea, and why I'm excited for Lost Ark because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
actually over like 4 years, somehow the player base grew.
Yeah.
Like that's
Oh,
actually
dude,
kind of
I'm
exciting.
actually so excited for Lost
Yeah,
Ark
It
too.
does look good.
And then a lot of my friends are like super mad about it because they have experience with other Korean MMOs and they're like,
Right.
I mean,
this is just some generic shitty Korean cash grab. It's not
well,
gonna be fun. And I mean,
you'll
it's like if you
realize the
actually
error in the
look
past.
at what Lost Ark's been doing, it's
mhm.
been doing really well in terms
Right.
of like that player base retention that the other
And that's the main
MMOs
statistic
don't
I
have.
like care about because I assume like if you're increasing players, then actually it must be a pretty decent game at least to try out.
Yeah.
You know, because
Mhm.
I get because I'm not huge into MMOs, but I definitely like I've watched a lot of videos on it, and it does seem like the caveat everyone always gave for Lost Ark was like, I know, it's another like Korean MMO, so you guys are worried it's gonna be like a shitty version of BDO
Yeah.
or something like blah blah blah, and it's gonna be very grindy and just not have anything in the end. But it seems pretty good. But yeah.
It looks good.
It,
That's
it
always
looks
yeah.
fantastic. I love it.
Lost Ark has always been a MMO I've had my eye on for a while.
I mean, it's also been a game that's been in development for what, like 30 years or some shit.
Yeah.
God.
But basically, I want this game to be like the Lost Ark of card games. I want I want it to grow. I want more players, man. You're
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
Lens, you were saying something earlier about data miners finding like a classic mode or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
I hope.
So
I
that's
hope.
actually, let me see if I can find that again. But yeah, I mean, one thing that is just that initial burst of interest in the game is only going to last
It's gonna last
like
at
I'd say
maximum 2
2 weeks
weeks. I
tops.
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like even like we say, it's only been out 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
3 days. It's nothing. But at the same time, when you have a 14-day deadline to capitalize on that
Yeah.
before you really just shit the bed really bad, like
Mhm.
it really feels like every day we don't get some sort of announcement or news. It's just sort of that clock ticking down, and it's just get feeling worse, knowing that. I mean, man, something's gonna.
Yeah.
They gotta do something. I hope. Yeah. Oh,
We'll
here I
see.
found it. It was some Reddit gallery.
Yeah, because when you
Doesn't
mentioned
Konami?
sorry,
Konami
Mike,
has
go.
a bad history of
Let's
just
see.
not
Reddit
talking to
gallery.
us though.
Yeah,
General.
Konami has never been communicative, like in terms
Oh,
of just like Yu-Gi-Oh in
Konami.
general. Oh man, it's a lot of what are they doing?
Yeah.
And also,
Sorry, go ahead,
like to
Mike.
go along with your, I know you're good. Dude.
Pro, XDs, Fusion.
To kind of go along with like the incomplete shop thing that we were talking about earlier, I'm not sure how I feel about your packs. If I'm being honest.
Secret packs?
I mean, well, yeah, they're good. In the long run. but like the time limit on them, and then the fact that you're forced to use
It's
Yeah, see, that's the one
Man.
thing I hate about secret packs is the time limit.
I
Like
feel
the
like it's
24
hard for me to
hours.
tell other people to play the game when I explain it. And I always think in my head I have to caveat and be like, yes, it's very predatory, but don't worry about it. Like I,
Exactly.
like I
Like,
kind of feel like, damn, I
Yep.
don't want to feel like I'm pressuring
Like,
them, but
if you know what you're doing and you work towards it, you can absolutely get where you want to go with very minimal resources spent.
well, because there's pros and
But
cons too. Because the pros is that like you can basically make an entire archetype just by pulling one of out one pack, right? That's not like in real Yu-Gi-Oh where like like if you wanted to collect stuff over time, like you'd have to do much more than just one pack.
yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
like each archetype
Multiple
is spread over,
boxes.
like 30 different pack releases.
Yeah.
So like
In this
Jesus.
game, it feels like, oh, if I want to like do an archetype, then I open 50 to 100 cards depending on what it is, and then I buy staples and like I disenchant and craft the rest of the stuff. It doesn't feel like as bad.
Yeah, it's very what's the word? Like determinate.
Honestly, the
Right.
reason why I think I'm okay with secret packs is because we have a crafting system.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because of that crafting system, you can open a secret pack anytime you want. And if you want to extend a secret pack, all you have to do is do a temple on it, and that'll
Oh, you can
guarantee
even
you
do
an
a single
SR.
pull. Like you might.
Yeah, no.
So,
You have to luck into a single pull, but I mean it's still going
I mean,
pretty easy
yeah.
overall, right? Yeah, as long as you have more than like literally 100 gems.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's still like 24 hours. There's a very
Oh, fuck.
real like predatory FOMO sort of.
Yeah.
You need to have this
And
now.
it's just
You need to spend all
24
your
is just so
resources
rough
now.
because 24 means like the next day, same time, you can't pull it again, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
I-
that's
I-
like the
you get-
most like they knew what they were doing when they did that. That
Yeah.
plays
Yeah,
on FOMO
it's-
so hard.
I wish it was
uh,
like a week or like 3
Yeah.
days or
Like
something.
literally
it
36
feels-
hours would be a make or break. Like even though that's like, oh, that's only 12 hours more, but that literally make or breaks it because that means next day you could theoretically pull slightly later than you did day one.
Yeah, right.
And that would
Or you
remove
could like
FOMO if
you
you
have
want.
enough time to do your dailies, and
Mhm.
with those dailies, you'd get 120 crystals, and then you get to do a single pull, and hey,
Mhm.
maybe you'd extend it.
Yeah, because for a lot of
But-
people, 24 hours is the same thing as just pull it right now. Because
Yeah.
it's most people don't want to play like 2 times a day or earlier the next day. So 24 hours isn't even
Do you
like
luck?
2 days.
Hold up.
24
Yeah,
hours for
right,
most
like-
people is like, oh, it's right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, let's say I get back from work. It's 6 o'clock at night. I log into Yu-Gi-Oh, do some shit. I get the secret pack at
Oh,
8 o'clock, and then it's 8 o'clock timeout the next day, right?
Mhm.
Then the next day I work until 6 o'clock. I come back, I eat, I shower, I log onto Yu-Gi at 7 o'clock, and then what? I've got an hour to do all my dailies and hope it doesn't fuck me over.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh wait, why didn't?
ugh,
Sorry, I
Teddy
did you mess
popped
up
it
your
off.
combo?
He almost got a U lock.
Yeah, he
I
almost
was
got the
Ah,
wait. I'm
extra
so
link.
confused.
Unfortunate.
Why
He almost
didn't
he almost pulled off the extra link.
one level 2 or lower? Fuck, level 2 or lower. Damn it. Alright,
Yeah.
Well,
Ah,
But so the thing is,
Alright,
I was
fine.
always thinking about like how you could possibly implement a classic mode, which is why I was curious like what the data miners
Yeah.
found because I don't exactly know how you would do it, but I definitely think that like having a set time period probably wouldn't like be the best because everyone has different opinions
Yeah,
about when it would be.
the-
I feel like it would be
and-
important to rotate out the classic mode and like through a certain. amount
I
of
feel
time.
like there's a couple of options, right? Like you said, the time is absolutely not going to be a solution
Yeah.
because all you're doing with the
just
time is
changing the
you're
metagame,
just
essentially.
changing what meta, right? Like
Exactly.
I mean, even if you go back to early fucking Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, everyone's just got to run Yada Lock. That's it.
Yeah, I
You're-
so I
that's the
definitely
whole
think
fucking thing.
I definitely think if they did a classic mode, it cannot be before 2005, before the ban list came
Yeah.
out, because like I said, that's the most experience I've had playing is literally in the progression that we were doing, and we found that like okay, we're like there's no different decks. Everyone actually just plays the same deck essentially.
Yeah.
It depending on like what you drew because you have like instead of like 5 or 6 staples or like 10, it's like 20 staples like pretty much, and like the other 20 really depend on like what we pulled in our own series. But I'm assuming if we just all had access to the cards, it would literally be the same deck up until around 2004 when like more archetypes are present, or 2005 when there's been
Yeah.
stuff and more archetypes present. So
But I mean, well, based on these banners, right? So each banner is a summon mechanic.
mhm.
So it's very likely just based like extrapolating from this that classic just means no synchro XYZ fusions, right? So probably like just no special summons
yeah.
in general. Or if you have special summons, it's like effect only
Yeah,
stuff.
I thought classic had fusions.
Yeah, it would have
Well, yeah, I
fusion. It
mean,
would
yeah,
have to have
it does have
fusions.
fusions, but fusion summons is like a type of special summon, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So classic, you'd have to go back to like fucking tribute summons or something.
We'll just do
Oh,
tribute
that
ritual.
okay. So you're saying like not an actual
Let me
like like so the format would be completely different from like what we've seen
Yeah,
before.
like I
Okay.
mean, I'd imagine they probably either they would like if you were playing the synchro mode, for example, either it'd be only synchro monsters or there'd be some kind of limit. Like you can only do one non-synchro special summon a turn or something.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think we're well. If it's something simpler though, and they're just like doing like a special event where it's like, hey, we're celebrating this summoning method. Do this many summons of this kind to
Oh
That's
God, I hope
kind
not.
of what I
get
Please
thought
gems.
they
not.
might
Because
do. That's what
they,
they do for a
they,
lot of
Don't
that's what
games.
they do
don't
for Duel
curse it.
Links, I think, too, for
really?
sometimes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
they do it for
yeah.
just every game. I mean, we're playing. I was playing Apex earlier, and they'd like, "Oh, play this character this many times, or do this much damage with this kind of champ." And I'm like,
I mean,
Oh,
Hearthstone
people
had a
don't
more
want to do
unique way of
that.
doing that, where like they made it not part of the core game when they did it. Do you guys remember like the weekly tavern brawls? That was like essentially Hearthstone
Yeah.
fixed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so one thing I don't like about games when they have those missions. Yeah, I get that they want you to try different things, right? But some people really don't want to do that, and you're punished for not playing, I guess, a different way than I guess you want to, and I
yeah.
kind of don't like the missions for that.
Well, I mean, even for Yu-Gi-Oh, there's so many different ways to play the game. Like,
There
in
are.
fact, I've gotten 2 days in a row. I've gotten the fucking this daily that's destroy 5 opponent cards in ranked
Mhm.
duels, and I can't complete that because I play Madolche, where my board removal is Tiramisu, and she reshuffles the deck. She
ooh,
doesn't
okay.
destroy, and that's actually exactly why she's so strong because she doesn't activate any destroy effects. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you tell me I have to destroy cards to beat. And it's
Is,
like, what
do we have to
what
get
do I
dailies
do?
done in ranked duels only? I forget.
Yeah, because right now that's like it has to
Like,
be
well, could
PvP
you do
only.
like a duel room though? Could we like friend farm it?
No,
Like in
no, I
Hearthstone
tried with a
Quest?
friend because I thought we
I think
could
you can do
just
that.
Oh, we
abuse
or he
it,
already
and
tried cheating the
it didn't
system.
let you. Yeah,
Dang.
You can do
no,
that in
it
any
didn't.
game, I feel
Was just
like.
ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally had to add Solum into my Madolche deck because I normally don't run it, and then play like 8 ranked duels until I got 5 Solums off to finish that daily, and that was annoying. That's just stupid.
Yeah,
But
so the thing is, like, it is a bit hard for me to see them going down the route of like, oh, we're gonna make a mode where you can only do X type of summons because I think for so many years people actually like already tried to speculate like, oh, what if Konami introduces a mode to do this? But much like how you said, like with changing time period, would just create a new metagame. I think even if you did that, like let's say, oh, you can only synchro or like you can only do X amount of summons per turn, special summons from like whatever per turn, there would ultimately still be like a metagame of like, okay, what's the best deck that can abuse only having
well,
the limit
I
of
mean,
like one per
in
turn,
any
right?
game, in any competitive
Right,
game, no matter what, there's going to be a meta established.
right.
The important thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is the power differential between bad decks and good decks.
Hmm.
Because like when a game is balanced, if the meta is 20%, like if the winning rate of having a meta deck is 70% versus a bad deck with 30%, then I mean that's not really balanced
Hmm.
and it's absolutely going to favor the meta, but it's still reasonable. You have a 30% win rate. In Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're running an unviable deck versus a meta deck like Drytrons or fucking Eldritch, you have a single digit win percent at best.
Yeah,
So it's insane to the point of complete oppression.
yeah.
So I think what's important if they're going to add other formats or other ways to play the game, like even if they're not necessary, if they're just totally optional formats for just for people who want to play it that way, they need to find a way that reduces that power differential. So like even if it's like say XYZ only and Utopia becomes the meta deck under whatever restrictions they have, as long as I can play like I don't know, fucking Ghost Trick or something, and still be somewhat viable against the Utopia deck, that'll be fine. So for Yu-Gi-Oh, I mean, a lot of that just relies on like
I do
simplifying the
think my
mechanics, really.
thought for like if they were to make a changing game mode, it definitely
Hmm.
couldn't be one based on like years, only in the sense that like Yu-Gi-Oh is still very game knowledge dependent, even if you go back like 5-10
Yeah.
years, right? Because like you said, there is a meta and there's game knowledge.
Yeah.
Even if the game is simpler, that it doesn't mean there's no game knowledge, right? Because
Yeah,
it's a card game.
absolutely.
Inherently,
Yeah.
there's a lot of it, and we know how many fucking cards exist in Yu-Gi-Oh. So you know,
Mm.
I definitely agree that it would be hard to like make it like a year to year like format swap. I'm just not like I mean I just have no idea what it would be if they made one. So
Yeah. I mean, it definitely take a concerted effort on their end, and it'd have to be a lot of really specific rules.
yeah.
Because you have stuff where when the meta is a skill drain meta, where you have Eldlik decks running triple skill drain in their deck, the meta becomes what decks can play around skill drain. And I mean, you look at it right now, every single meta deck can play around skill drain. Tri Brigade activates from hand and graveyard. It doesn't care about skill drain. You can have your whole fucking board and all of your swarms and not be affected by it a single
Same
time.
with prank kids.
Yeah, same with Eds. Like that's why the meta
Mhm.
decks are meta because they have an answer to an extremely polarizing mechanic.
Mhm.
But 90% of the archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh, skill drain will hard shut that down.
Yeah.
If skill drain goes on the field, you lose.
Mhm.
Period. Like
Unless
unless
you
you happen to top deck into Harpy's Feather Duster, which
Yeah.
is a 1 in 40 chance, right?
Mhm.
And well, 1 in 40 chance means you're going to win that game 2.5% of the time.
I mean, could they
So-
also get away with it with MST maybe?
Yeah, but then you'd have to pull MST. And any
It's more
deck
likely.
running skill drain usually has a way to counter back row removal in some way.
Yeah, it's
So it's
I get your
hmm.
point here. I mean, I think this is also symptomatic of them having to address like a growing pain that they refuse to by the nature of like only using a ban list to like balance the game for
Yeah.
like 2 decades.
Yeah,
so
right. Like if Yu-Gi-Oh
this
had
is-
been doing the
yeah.
rotating format like MTG
Yeah, this wouldn't be an
has,
issue.
it'd
Almost.
be
No.
great.
Yeah.
No, but all they have is this ban list.
Yeah.
So, oh, you're not allowed to play this card.
Yeah.
Well,
This is
that
kind of
doesn't
like them having to
fix the
address that
issue
growing
here,
pain
right?
that is now grown for the last 20 years.
yeah.
So I
Like,
mean, I
I
guess
mean,
we'll
you've
just
got
yeah
just-
we'll just have to see because like there's pretty much endless speculation on what it could be, but
Yu-Gi-Oh
so
2.
you guys so like you know I think so Mike and Teddy, you guys both played Duel Links, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So one
that
of
was
the
my
things-
introduction to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, so one of the things I think people were saying is like they want events in the game, much like the Duel Links events. Like, do you feel like that would be plausible for this game?
Well, I mean, there's an event tab, so there's definitely got to be events.
Oh,
It's just, how are they
for a
going to do
fact.
the events? Right? Like, are the events going to be play against opponents with certain
Well,
restrictions?
see, we had like raid events, for instance, though, like where there was like this one big bad monster, and everyone
I
helped each other to
can't-
beat it. And
I can't
mean, yeah,
see
I'd
that
be
coming
into
to
that.
Master Duel.
Yeah.
I really can't. Just because for that to work, I feel like again, Duel Links is a game where you can just take anywhere and sort of just play just for a couple seconds on, and that's sort of what these raid events are. You just sort of go in, just play a couple
It's a true
random
gacha
ass
game
duels, get some
almost.
points.
I
Yeah.
will say my favorite. Sorry, I'll let you finish, Jody.
No, I really I would see events more almost like almost sort of akin to sort of the solo mode or even some of the stuff from like Hearthstone. I think the best my knowledge of Hearthstone events is a little bit limited, but to my understanding they try and implement a little bit of like lore based stuff for some of like the WoW events, right? Something like that.
Oh, are you talking about like the DLC content? That they
Yeah,
have, like
the DLC
expansions.
content.
Yeah, the expansions
Yeah.
are always like some very
The
similar. to
adventure
WoW.
modes.
Yeah, the adventure
Yeah,
modes.
that's-
Those are really cool.
That's
But-
what I see Master Duel sort of implementing.
So do you
just
think
because
future solo modes could potentially be like solo
think
modes
so.
could be where like events go to eventually? Like
But
it'll be like, oh, here's
that's
the
my
event
Yeah,
that we put
like
in
Teddy,
solo,
Teddy's,
I think.
Teddy's overlooking the one of a couple things that were in Duel Links that I think that they could do here. One of
Which
them
is?
was turbo duels, for instance, was something they did in Duel Links where they had like a PvP little small bracket thing.
yeah,
try to
I
get to
could
the top.
see
Turbo
some
duel.
of the PvP
duels.
modes coming in, but like again,
And- Then like they had tag duels as well. And
I
Yeah,
don't know about tag duels. Tag duels I feel like will always be very polarizing just because again it's not dependent on you anymore, it's dependent on you and another teammate and people
I know, I'm just saying, like,
don't
there's more to like Duel Links events than just what you were stating. basically.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
sure, I
like
get that.
events, you're split into two like routes they can do for events, right? Either they do a
Yeah.
PvE event or a PvP
Hmm.
event. And when you think of, well, what's important is what's going to retain more players in the
Yeah.
terms of
PVE,
like
PVE,
long-term growth of,
100%.
yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
PvE. Because right now, what kind of players are bleeding from Yu-Gi-Oh? It's the
It's the
people who are
PVA.
interested in it.
Yeah.
They come back, they go into rank mode because it's the only matchmaking. They
Slammed
they
by
go
Sky
against
Strikers.
some guy who fucking combos the solitaire mode for 15 minutes and then
Yeah.
gets one shot,
That's definitely
and
frustrating
they're
if you're
like,
new and
what
you
is
don't
this
know what's
shit,
going
right?
on, and it takes like 10
So
minutes for the opponent to take their
if
turn.
they have some kind of cooperative event or even just like solo PvE event, then I think they can retain a lot of interest. And that's just sort of something I've been
Sure.
complaining since day one is I really wish solo mode was more fleshed out. Like there needs to be more stuff for people to
Hmm.
do who just want to, relax
Yeah,
and
let me fight
Hmm.
Pegasus and his relinquish.
yeah,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's cool how it's like mostly it's like a lot of card lore, but I do think adding characters for solo mode would have also been cool. You know, that's a
I
huge point.
so
Give the
one
anime
of
fans some love. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've
well,
had a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh games in the past, right? Like has anyone played Legacy of the Duels?
No, but I heard that was pretty good,
I've
right? So
not.
maybe if they can import
Nah,
stuff like
yeah,
that, that would
like
be
I
good.
mean, it was a really good game, and the only downside of it is that it's well, one is that it's only PvE, and two is that they don't update the card list, so it's stuck,
Y-
3 years in the
You know what I
past.
think? Honestly, it would be insane if they made a game mode for this. Like now that they have Master Duel, right?
I
If they literally made a few like very crucial points in like Yu-Gi-Oh, especially like early Yu-Gi-Oh for like the original series in GX. If they did like Duelist Kingdom, like Duel the Duelist and Duelist
Yeah.
Kingdom, or it's
Mhm.
Battle City, do the Battle City stuff, or then you go to GX,
Oh my
you're
god.
in Duel Academy, progress through Duel
God,
Academy.
oh yeah.
Like
See,
that would
that's
retain
like
so many
that would be
players. That would get so
godlike.
fucking
so
much.
so here's where I want to sort of interject.
Yeah.
Did any of you guys watch their sort of intro video for Master Duel
No.
Nope,
at all?
not at
Like
all.
before
I
they even when they were teasing it,
Were
I
they?
guess.
I
Did they
think
talk about what their
I think I
goals of
did.
the game? Were they kind of saying that this was not what they wanted for it?
So yeah, they were talking about goals of both Master Duel and Duel Links. So one of the comments that I think the director or whatever brought up is that if they wanted to sort of separate those two categories. So they're
Fuck.
gonna keep Duel Links
Yeah, man,
as sort of that
seriously.
anime style role playing dream sort of
Ah.
PvE type sort of game where you can go in and sort of role play and do all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? And it's got its own sort of meta. Meanwhile, they wanted Master Duel, and this is the feeling I was getting by the way when they were talking about this stuff in the video. I can find it real fast. Is that they wanted this to be sort of like this is the TCG sort of
This is
for
the. I mean,
almost
its
like the
fucking name
hardcore
is Master
players, and
Duel. You
I
know, its name is Master Duel. It's
yeah
not subtle.
Yeah.
It's not subtle in it.
Well, I mean,
yeah
see, that at the same time though, that's their goal for it. But once they see the money come rolling in, are they going to stick by those
sure. I'm
goals?
not saying they can't
But
pivot
at the
from that.
same time, if
Yeah.
they do pivot, it might be too late if they weren't planning for it
I
to begin with.
that's what I feel like is gonna happen almost
Yeah,
though. So,
that would be bad.
which sucks. But it's just that's the feeling I get right now because
Yeah.
like you said, at the end of the 2 weeks we're probably gonna bleed most of the players. Whoever was playing Duel Links for the PvE is probably gonna go back to Duel Links because honestly, Duel Links is already on PC. It's not like it's
And Duel
completely
Links is a better game for new players because you only have three
for new
zones,
players.
and
Yeah, it's a
it's a
great I
single
would say
main
it's a great
phase.
game
Yeah,
for new
it's a single
players to
main
learn
phase
the
too,
game.
so it's just so much simpler for new players to play.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like if I wasn't a hardcore Yu-Gi-Oh player, or not hardcore, sorry,
Yeah.
I do not mean hardcore. I mean like if I was not a person who played Yu-Gi-Oh like before, and like had an anal kind of like, oh, I only want to play it like how the rules are with two main phases and 5 zones, I would have played
Yeah.
Duel Links. Like I would have been like, oh, this is really cool. Like I can play Yu-Gi-Oh without it being too complicated. But instead, like
Mhm.
I'm very anal. But for a new player, Duel Links must seem so much better in that sense.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah.
access code.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hate access code.
Hi, how you doing? So not only do I have firewall, but also access code.
Oh, damn it. This is the worst. But yeah, I mean, the one good thing though is that that survey that they have, it
Yeah.
does really sort of imply that they're going to take feedback seriously.
I should
Yeah.
probably
And
do
I
the
mean,
survey.
in the
I hope they
survey,
listen.
I actually specifically filled out the survey in a way that I like completely
Yeah.
polarized it entirely towards solo PV stuff and needing more rewards for playing the
Right.
game.
Yeah, because I
So
don't
my
think this
goal is
game
that.
needs to do anything more for competitive. Like I said, the
Yeah.
competitive is essentially like the actual card components, right? It's like if the competitive mode already works, that's fine. It doesn't need improvements because it does its job already. That at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it
right.
does
The
what they
people
wanted it to
that
do.
are going to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh will keep playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh no matter what. You've already got that player base on lock.
Hmm.
What you need to do is, expand.
Yeah.
But it's like, will Konami know? Like, will they actually do it? And
Yeah, well, because it's a bit interesting, right? Because if you bring up that dynamic, I think actually what Teddy brought up is important. Is that like they made this distinction of Duel Links, then I suppose being like the more casual, PVE game. But then that begs the question, like, why did you
Slightly more
make
casual.
Master Duel almost? Because you already have competitive players willing to drop a lot of money in real life on Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So if you make
Mhm.
Master Duel, in a sense, like you already have like both the competitive side filled out with like the IRL players, and you have the casual side with the Duel Links players. I feel like Master Duel would be the perfect place to have like a bit more of a unison, but
yeah,
I don't know why
I mean,
like if they wanted to go pure competitive with it. I feel like you already kind of have that in a sense.
I I feel like it's Master Duel sort of a little. I feel like this is just me. I don't know if this is necessarily sort of the intent, but what I think really Master Duel sort of does is it just sort of gives people a way to sort of just get into it's so I think the benefit of having Master Duel as opposed to just like, why did they make it? It's an avenue into the TCG,
Hmm.
if
so like they're
anything.
just sort of trying to drag people into the
A little
the
bit of that.
actual money
But
spending.
then it also saves them because of
Yeah,
COVID in a way. If they can't host big
that
events, then they
that
can
that
now
as
do
well.
Master Duel.
That
You know,
probably
a
was another
completely
big one.
unrelated side tangent, but one
Mm.
hilarious thing is that, like, the best resource for finding meta Yu-Gi-Oh decks is looking up tournament winning decks, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then, like, recently I've been looking some up, and a lot of the meta decks for archetypes I was interested in were like, oh my God, this deck hasn't won a tournament since 2019. It must be garbage. There's been 2 years of power creep. But then you think about it, there were like no tournaments held in 2020 or 2021 because of COVID.
Yeah, the data is
So decks
very
from
off.
2019 are
Yeah,
surprisingly viable,
yeah,
which is just kind of funny to me. But yeah, no, that was just a side tangent.
yeah.
Fair.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely I think what everyone wishes Master Deal to be is just the definitive experience where if you want to be related to Yu-Gi-Oh in some way, you come to Master Duel.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And if Konami doesn't have that same goal in mind, it's going to be really unfortunate. I mean, I guess there's nothing we can do, but hopefully enough people sort of express that in the surveys that they
I
get the
hope.
hint, right? Because I mean, there is enough fleshed out. Like I do think the solo mode is solid enough that if they just get overwhelming feedback that they want more, that people want more solo mode, they could immediately start developing
I
stuff in
wish
solo mode
I wish
and
I wasn't
release that.
gem. I wish I wasn't gem greedy and could like refill the survey
Yeah, I know, right?
because now I have like a better opinion now than like day one
Yeah,
where I was just like,
I
oh
did
yeah,
the
50
survey
gem.
day one, and
Yeah.
a lot of it was like I did fill out stuff in like the ranked deals and whatnot. Like I haven't played this yet enough, and I don't
Mm.
have any
Yeah.
opinion on it. And I do wish I could go back and say I have an opinion and I don't like it, so give me more solo mode. Oh man, but I guess we'll have to see.
Let me see if I can find the video for you guys
But I will say
so that
it's
you'll know
been
what I'm
so
talking
far a
about.
pretty decent start.
Yeah, no, I'm glad
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
very least there's eyes on it. The biggest
Oh
unfortunate
yeah.
thing would be like if there wasn't even the chance for Konami to fuck up,
Hmm.
then it would suck because then there's no chance,
Then
right?
it just turned
Yeah,
into a sheer money grab, and
right.
nothing would
And then
ever
like
change, right?
then I would not play this game, and then like it would die off, like yeah. At least
Hmm.
there's a chance, and if they fuck it up, it sucks. But at least like we can see what happens
Yeah.
because
Would
there's
it
eyes on
be?
it right now, so that's good.
I think the one good thing about it is compared to like the MMOs where it just bleeds 90% players and fades into obscurity before they can do anything, Yu-Gi-Oh will always be relevant enough that I think Master Duel will, like, if they do completely shit the bed in the first couple weeks, but like a year later, like fix the game, I think there'll be enough of a core base of people interested in Yu-Gi-Oh that it'll still end up being healthy, right?
Hmm.
Well, which
Sure.
is my hope for it. I'm not positive of that. I'm not even confident, but that's being optimistic. I'm hoping that's the case.
So if Duel Links is any measure to go off of, because Duel Links is pretty healthy, regardless. I think that Master Duel will probably be doing fine for the most part.
Yeah. God, it's funny because I literally did not know Master Duel existed until it came out, and like three people messaged me on Discord overnight saying, "Dude, look, Master Link's Duel is out." I'm like, "What the fuck is Master Duel?"
I was literally about to go to sleep before work, like the next day, and then I saw a video like, "What the fuck? It came out!" Like, oh,
Right?
shit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
like
try
Where
this
did
after
this
work
come
tomorrow.
from?
but yeah, I
Freaking
mean,
3 a.m. or something.
yeah, hopefully, that's all we can really do. I mean, it's not like we have any control over it, so we may as
No.
well just be optimistic and pray.
I'm gonna be
Hope and
pessimistic and
pray.
think they're not gonna do anything, but I will. So I'll be very happily surprised if things go well.
Yeah. Oh, that
Yeah.
works too, right?
Yes.
If
Oh,
you
absolutely.
expect nothing, but hope
Um,
for more.
because at the worst, like you're right 100% that this is the definitive experience that like if people actually want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, they will gravitate to this. So this game will
Yeah.
probably be playable, and at least for me, like that's nice because then I'm not gonna fucking drive to some IRL thing. Like I'll be
No.
playing this, that'll
Yeah.
be fun. But
That's so good. That's why I like this game, because you can just like hit your friends up. Hey, do you want to just play for a couple rounds, or do you want to like do some
Yeah.
like you
Oh,
like some
dude,
silly draft you were saying earlier, right?
it's
We can
great.
do that here,
yeah,
And you don't
which
have to
is
know the rules.
And yeah, I
so
mean, prior
nice.
to this,
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh Pro did that. But the issue with
Mhm.
Yu-Gi-Oh Pro is that, well, like one, there's like the weird shit where it's split to like Yu-Gi-Oh Pro and Dev Pro, and then
yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh
There's
Mercy
different
or whatever
yeah.
the
There's
fuck it
different
Here's
is.
ones, right? Which was weird.
I didn't want to
Yeah,
use
and
Yu-Gi-Oh
another
Pro
thing is
instead.
like because there were so many splits, if you wanted to convince someone to play with you, you'd have to link them to what you're using, and then they'd have to download an
It's all
800
yeah.
megabyte
It's hard to
package and
convince them to
install
go to
it.
some sketchy Discord server to download something.
Yeah,
I
right?
never want to convince my friends to do. I mean, that's like we talked about it with like the whole like 24-hour packs things. I don't want to ever have to like give a caveat like, oh, it looks very predatory, but like don't worry about it. Oh, this Discord server,
But
it looks really
Oh
sketchy,
yeah.
but no, yeah, this is the right place.
Yeah.
I never want to have to say
Just
those
download
caveats.
this exe from this
yeah.
unlisted Discord server. I swear it's not gonna steal your bacon.
Yeah, I never want to have to say that, man. Like that is
Oh,
just not a thing I want to
yeah,
deal with.
just the fact that there's an official solution for that
yeah.
is gonna be so nice.
Yeah, that's
And like the
something.
fact that there's like
Totally.
an enduring account because like one of the issues with the Yu-Gi-Oh Pro stuff, it's not account link, right? It's all local. So you build your decks like, but if you're needed like if someone downloads it, they have to go build a bunch of decks from scratch, and then they switch platforms, they have to do it again, or they switch computers, they do it again. Whereas this, you have at least sure you have to like work for it, and you can't just snap your fingers and have every game and every card in the game, but
Yeah.
it
I mean,
feels good having progression too.
yeah, I mean the other option outside of Yu-Gi-Oh Pro was Dueling Network, and then eventually when that shut down, it was Dueling Book, which is like what we used. But like for that one, like we fucked up a lot of rules. Like over the
Oh
years,
god,
like
yeah. I mean, they
we're
were
like,
good,
Yeah.
but
oh.
manual stuff. You go into a random lobby, you fight someone, and
Oh
you
yeah, we
flip
would
NFC.
never play
I
online.
negate your
Yeah.
solemn judgment.
Yeah,
What the fuck are you
we never
talking
we never played online for that reason. We always did it in house and like yeah, but we fucked up a lot of rules, so it's like
Yeah.
it's hard, man.
I mean, God,
It's
the ruling is
nice.
so shit.
Yeah.
Everyone fucks up rules, actually, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the things about Madolche has a card called Madolche Chateau, which is their field spell, and it makes it so if you shuffle cards into your deck, you're allowed to add them to hand instead. And your main effect on Tiramisu shuffles two cards into the deck. So the question people had is, well, if I shuffle two cards in the deck, can I add one of them to my hand and the other into the deck? And everyone's answer was no. And well, why is the answer no? And people were like, well, based on the wording of this specific card and how it's written out, we believe that this should not be allowed. But there was never an actual official judge ruling or anything. It's just been this accepted community opinion that that's the case. And I've called bullshit on it for like 6 years now. But
What
nobody's
does Master
listening.
Duel say?
Because Master Deal says I'm right and they're wrong. And
Well,
I'm
that must have
let's
felt good then
go.
when you played. That must have felt good.
like I went into the Madolche Discord and I was like, "Hey guys, look at this. You're wrong." and then they
Get
kick.
fucked.
They kicked you?
They kicked you?
Amazing.
Oh man,
Yes.
that's great.
Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, dude, I remember like even in high school, like had to like look up rulings, and in high school, like we didn't even fucking understand like how resolving shit like worked and like how missing timing and like other stuff worked.
Yeah.
Like we didn't.
Dude,
Yeah.
I still don't know how missing timing works. What the
Like
fuck
we
is
we
that?
literally
Yeah,
didn't know
that's
that, and like I
hard.
remember I would like look up rulings for certain cards, and like it would say like there was no like rulings website. It was just you look on the wiki and it would say like, oh, there's like in this tournament like this thing happened or in this specific
Yeah.
situation, or like these
like, what the fuck?
this ruling is not from the TCG. This is an OCG ruling, and I was like, well, fuck it, that's the best I've got, so I'll go with whatever this says here because I don't know what the card like. Yeah, I'm glad that there's no fucking up rules.
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and having a real definitive answer to that is actually so great. And I mean, like Yu-Gi-Oh is just actually such a complicated game. Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty, I think I'm pretty good at you. I don't think I'm a top player by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I'm above average. But there's so much stuff I have no fucking clue how it works or how like fucking tribute summons, right? Like kaijus are great removal because they're a tribute summon, so they don't get affected by like effect negates.
Yeah, because tributing is a cost, and cost always happens.
Yeah.
You can't stop a
And
cost
then,
effect
but
negation.
Nibiru is an effect that tribute summons, and you can negate a monster effect, or you can give a monster effect immunity, and Nibiru won't work on it.
That's because it's a hand trap though. Isn't it?
No, it's not because it's
What?
a hand trap. It's because the Nibiru tribute summon is part of the effect and not the
Oh,
cost.
okay, yeah. So you can negate the
And
actual
which
effect.
is
Oh,
like,
that's confusing.
Yeah, that's back in the
yeah,
day.
right?
I remember
Oh,
I had the same
ew.
issue with what was it
It's
called,
like,
the
fuck.
the Dark World cards, because they say like
Mhm.
when you activate a card that has an effect to discard, and I didn't realize like cost was a thing, so I just assumed when a card said, "Oh, discard this, then do something," I was like, "Oh yeah, that's an effect." And then years later, I remember I was watching a video like, "This is actually not how Dark Worlds work," and I was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, discarding the card is actually a
Confusion.
cost, and like that's not actually the effect of the card," and I was like. I didn't even know that.
What?
I thought that's how it worked. But,
Yeah.
I,
And I mean, there's just so much like even random shit that you have no idea. Like, did you know that how solemn judgment, right? It negates summons.
mhm.
Like that's how it works. It negates summons. That's what the card does. Everyone runs it to negate summons. Did you know that solemn judgment can't negate summons?
It's
What?
There is an entire section like
I think I
category
know
of
exactly what you're talking
summons
about. I
that
think the one you're
summons
talking
can't
about is
work.
solemn. It's either solemn warning or solemn strike. One of them makes it so you can negate a like something that summons, but it doesn't like negate spell or trap cards. So then people assume like you can negate like polymerization, for example. But polymerization doesn't actually summon at the time of activation. It's an effect, right? So it was like one of those cards couldn't negate poly, and like people were really confused by that for a while. I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
something.
well, that's the difference between like solemn strike and solemn judgment, which
Yeah.
is actually a separate issue from what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm talking specific about solemn judgment. There's a category called inherent summons,
Mhm.
which is summons that don't start chains that solemm judgment cannot work on because
Interesting.
it can't chain to that summon effect.
I
It's like
actually don't know
what?
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, hold up. I actually I have a link from my Discord server because I ran into this bullshit like decks ago. Like, why can't I solemn this guy's link monster? And my friend was like, "Oh, you don't know about inherent summons?" I'm like, "Inherent? What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, I also didn't know for the longest time
It's
about
like,
like the I think they're called Nomi and Semi Nomi monsters, where it's like they have like it's easy to understand for like it says like must first be summoned, using a specific method, right? And then if it goes to the graveyard without it being like summoned, you can't like monster reborn it. So I understood that part. I didn't realize that like that was the case if like let's say the summon got negated, because then technically counts as not being officially summoned. And I also didn't realize that was the case with like certain extra deck monsters that don't actually say that, because you get some of the extra deck monsters that'll say like, oh, must first be fusion summoned or must first be synchro summoned or blah blah blah.
yeah.
But like apparently like for a lot of it it's like also an inherent property, and like I just didn't know some of those, which was
That's so
yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, it's like stuff that like I did not realize. So that's a lot
Yeah,
of things.
one interesting thing is that all of the wording on Yu-Gi-Oh cards are extremely thought out.
Yes,
Like
nowadays, yes.
the yeah, nowadays it
Yeah, I
is. I
think
mean,
ever
they've
since
errata.
what 2011
God,
it was when they did the problem
yeah.
solving text.
So it's very much effort has been put into that, but at the same time, the rules that those wordings are based off of is like so
Yeah, they also kind of
vague
suck.
and like hard to keep
Yeah.
up with that it's like
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh
it
doesn't use
doesn't make
keywords.
intuitive sense.
They've only started using like
No.
semi-keyword. I don't even call them real keywords. I would call them semi-keywords in the last few years because they're just
Yeah.
abbreviations. Like they use GY now because the card texts are getting so long. They're like, oh, we can't say graveyard. We say
Yeah.
GY.
Mhm.
But like, remember back when piercing damage wasn't a keyword, and they would just say like, when your attack exceeds the defense points, then the difference calculated goes as
Gosh,
life point
yeah.
damage. I was like, dude, that's so fucking long. Like, I think everyone understands the concept of piercing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
Yeah.
keywords that Yu-Gi-Oh used have ever been like complicated. Like even Hearthstone. I remember when Hearthstone got rid of the enrage keyword because it was too complicated. Like why? That's not that complicated. And there's like
Yeah.
there's not too many keywords. I don't know. I see.
But yeah, I mean, like,
I would
did
agree.
you know that when there is a colon in the text of a monster summon effect, that means that that effect will start a chain?
I did not know that.
Like,
Huh.
that's the level of shit that this wording stuff is like. Here, I'll quote the relevant bit in the Discord, but if an effect has a colon in it, you know that'll start a chain. That's the wording rule that they're using
Oh, I
to
see. Okay,
demonstrate.
so because before the
Huh.
colon would be the cost, right? So then,
Yeah.
yeah. So then it'll
I
be
see.
activate, and
So,
then it would
so this wording has a structure to it,
Mhm,
but the rules of that structure aren't clearly defined somewhere.
mhm.
Like, sure, it makes sense. It makes logical sense. They all abide by a rule set, but what are the fucking rules,
Right. It makes
right?
sense if you know the game, but if you don't know the game, like
Yeah.
that would go over your head
Like
because it'd be like,
even
Yeah.
just a couple days ago, I saw a trap card, like specifically the Shadol fusion trap card that allows them to fusion summon on the opponent's main phase. And the trap card says during the main phase. And I'm thinking, well, on monster effects, if it can be done on the opponent's turn, it will always say during either player's main phase,
yeah.
or it'll say quick effect in parentheses. So because this trap card doesn't have that on it, it must only be applicable on his main phase and not mine. So I did negate it, and then of course he fusion summons some Winda. I get fucked. I lose the deal. I'm like, what the hell? And I complain about it. And then my friend's like, well, I mean that's pretty obvious, right? Because a trap is spell speed too, so it's inherently playable on either player's turn. So if it says during the main phase, you know that it's during your main phase as well. I'm like, I did not know that.
Hmm.
How would you know that? How would you know that if you
Yeah, you
haven't been
gotta get
playing this
fucked
game
by
for
it, and
20
then someone
years?
explains it to you.
Right? It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they added like quick effect in the text. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I remember like even back when we first started playing in 2015, some of us still had some like old cards that like didn't have the quick effect like subtext in there, and
Oh
so it
god.
was like we didn't know if those like could be activated as a spell speed 2 like thing. So
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the good things about digital is that if they did errata a card, it actually
yes,
goes into effect instead of having 3,000, 30,000 copies
yeah.
out there with the wrong effect. You've got kids in kindergarten saying, "Well, my
Well, okay,
action
okay,
from
but to be
spare
fair,
just
kids in
use any
kindergarten, it doesn't really
monster."
matter
Yeah.
because like they're not gonna play the game. That's the one thing about Yu-Gi-Oh that is always shocking to me is like how it was so popular like in our generation of like kids in the early 2000s, yet
Yep.
no one knew how to play it because they watched
Yeah.
the fucking show and like you literally some episodes of the show, even in GX, Zane puts fusion monsters in his main deck. When he pulls Chimera Tech Overdragon, it's in his fucking main deck. And, like, no one knows what's going on. You just summon shit, and you make things up. Like,
I mean, are you saying that I can't summon Stone Soldier in defense mode and
yeah, summoning in
break the
defense
moon?
mode, that's another one. Like, we all thought, like, we could summon things in defense mode.
Yep.
I still love how they literally made a Yu-Gi-Oh card called Attack the Moon to reference how stupidly bullshit that scene was.
I remember in the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, Weevil fucking talks about how like his monster gets advantages because they're in the jungle and it's a bug monster and it's like
Yeah. Yep.
and like I was like what the like
Gotta-
I was like oh that makes a lot of sense like it's like Pokemon there's like types and stuff but like there's no like what that doesn't make sense at all.
And there's that sailor guy who actually plays the Umi card,
Yeah.
which is a
Yep.
field spell, which is great. But
Exactly.
then they don't explain the field spell. They just say, "Oh, we're in the sea now, so all of my mermaids are super strong." And you're like, "Wow, there
But
are
don't
like
forget,
actual
you can
environments
break,
in you."
but you can break the moon, and then, and then all your sea monsters are on land.
Remember when he was
Yep.
fucking fighting Pegasus and he defeats his toon
Oh my
castle by
gosh.
breaking the
Yep.
levitating ring?
Don't forget for covering his relinquish with the Karibos.
Oh,
Oh man.
oh, good shit.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Yeah, I think we've given all of our thoughts on this
Yeah.
game. I think the next
Yeah.
time they'll make a game that's better than this will be when we actually flesh out augmented reality and we can actually have like holograms on our fucking Google
Oh,
glasses.
shit.
Dude, that
Like,
would be
Oh,
project
dude.
out. I was literally talking about this with people at work that like I don't give a shit about VR because realistically it'll take so long for VR to get good that I really don't care that much and I'm not going to get
Yeah,
excited until
it's
actually
not going
good.
to be in our lifetime.
Yeah,
And
I think what is
not in our
plausible in our
lifetime is
lifetime is definitely
the only
AR.
important.
I think
Yeah.
good glasses with AR, maybe, in like 10, 20 years might be plausible.
AR, yeah, if anything.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
so
dude.
excited for that because, especially like if you, let's say you start renting out like a warehouse and you just have like fucking like zombies in a warehouse, you could play that with
Yeah.
AR. Like that'd be so cool. And it would enhance so many experiences, and especially for Yu-Gi-Oh. That's the biggest one I was thinking about was like it'd be so cool to just like see monsters out there, right? We already have
Oh,
the concept
dude, if
of
you had a
Pokemon
dual
Go,
disc
but
and then
yeah.
you like played on it,
Yeah.
Right.
and the monster
And-
fucking appeared
and-
before your eyes.
Yeah,
oh,
and here's the
that'd be
thing:
sick.
the dual disc wouldn't have to do anything. The dual disc could literally be a piece of like fucking plastic with nothing on it except for the
they
AR
could
projects
use
to it.
the literal dual disc toy that they sold in like fucking Toys R Us or whatever a decade ago.
Yeah, and then the AR is like creating the image itself, and then like you actually have all the stuff, and that way it's not like floppy and gross, and you don't break your cards using the dual disc. So it would be awesome if there's something like that. So yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
that's
I have
all our
some bad
thoughts.
news.
All right.
I have some really bad news.
Yeah.
You can't U-lock in this game.
Really?
Oh,
Yep. I just found that out right now because
But-
I just figured out how to do the full U-lock
Isn't
combo.
that part of the
and
game though? Isn't extra linking part of the game, or did they remove it?
That's what I would think, but like right now I'm trying to U-lock because theoretically I should be able to U-lock right now, right? I'm able to go into Balinks and access code can point into here, but I can't put Balinks up here.
Maybe we should look up did extra linking get removed from Yu-Gi-Oh.